Welcome, everybody. Time is now 7:02 on May 20th. Call into session the Halifax Planning Board. Members present: Mark Milius, Gordon Andrews, Amy Troop, and we are welcoming Brendan Elliott. Brendan, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And on the agenda tonight at 7:05, we have a hearing for Flower and Soul Incorporated. We have Brian Wall to discuss 894 Plymouth Street for a special permit. At 7:25, we have a continued hearing for Flower and Soul regarding the same address for the site plan review. We have some general discussion about 49 and 63 Carver Street, discussion for Franklin Street solar array, pasture lane status, general subdivision control regulations, Cled's tree service, and the meeting time and location. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as read?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as read.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're pretty close to 7:05. If everyone agrees, as far as restructuring, maybe we should wait until all members are present anyway, but something we can take care of at a different time.
I think all members are present, but it doesn't bother me to wait until further into the meeting. Anybody else?
That's fine.
Not a problem.
Welcome, Rick. Sorry, I didn't see you. All right, 7:05. Do we have Brian Wall for Flower and Soul?
Thank you, members of the board. This is Adam Braillard, counsel for Flower and Soul, representing Flower and Soul for this special permit application. I'm with Prince LaBelle Ty, we're a law firm in Boston, Massachusetts. Brian Wall is currently at his daughter's baccalaureate mass graduation, so he's going to be a little late to the meeting, but he said to expect him probably right around 7:20 to 7:30. But what I'd like to do is go through the special permit presentation after I introduce a couple more folks on the Flower and Soul team, if that pleases the board.
Yeah, and hopefully he can join us soon.
Great, thank you. So, like I said, Brian Wall is going to be a little late for the hearing, but I'd like to just quickly read off Brian's some snippets from his bio, so for the record and the board knows who he is. So Brian's Brian is a Whitman native, and he's an entrepreneur with hands-on professional experience in the world of services, technology, and finance. His experience includes founding Adaptive HR, which provides human resources services to cannabis companies. With us tonight also, so this is Adam Braillard here in this room, and next to me is Brendan Mckee, and Brendan is a partner and a consultant for Flower and Soul. Brendan's a Hull native and brings a ton of experience in the industry. He's co-founded 2 companies in fitness and in cannabis. His experience includes co-founding Silver Therapeutics, which is a Massachusetts cannabis company, and has multiple operating retail establishments in the state. Also with us tonight is Corinne Tobias. Corinne is with Green International. She's a licensed professional engineer and certified professional traffic operations engineer, and is project manager Akron with over 10 years of experience in transportation engineering. And among other things, she specializes in traffic study reports, traffic management plans, and land use management. And finally, here tonight on our team is Joe Webley. Joe has been in front of this board plenty of times. He's with Webley Engineering. He provides high quality, accurate land surveying services for customers in Eastern Massachusetts. So with that, what I'd like to do, if I may, is share the screen and go through our special permit presentation, if that pleases the board.
Yeah, we're ready at this time. Go ahead.
Great.
The bottom left,
Oh, yes, thanks.
or you could minimize. There we go.
There we go.
And then just.
Can everyone see that screen? Okay, great. So I just went through, oh, hold on. There we go. There we go. So I went through the introduction of the team. What I'd like to do next is just provide an overview of what we're up to. So Flower and Soul is proposing to develop a adult use marijuana retail establishment within the existing building located at 894 Plymouth Street, it's also known as Route 106. It's within the commercial and business zoning districts in the town of Halifax. The property meets all of the zoning setback, dimensional, and use requirements set forth in the zoning bylaw. And also, as proposed, the establishment and the property meet all the requirements set forth in 935 CMR 500, which is the State Cannabis Control Commission regulations. Flower and Soul has negotiated a host community agreement with the town and town council, and will proceed through the State Cannabis Control Commission's licensing process once that is fully executed with the town. In terms of what we're looking to do, so on the right side here, that's a general overview, satellite view of the location. We're proposing to install the establishment within this building. The below photo shows the building, and we'll go into it in a little more detail, but we're basically, this is the front of the building. We're proposing to install the facility in these two units that are currently vacant. And just a little bit of a nuance, only one of these units will actually be available for retail. The other unit will be used for, and Brennan will go into this in a little more detail, but the second unit will be used for employee offices, bathrooms, and secure storage. So existing conditions, Plymouth Street on top here. This is all existing. This is this is just under 61,000 square foot parcel with a 3,400 square foot building on the parcel. Currently, there exist 4 units in the building, and 2 of those, as I said, are vacant. The 2 middle units, which we'll show on the floor plan, are vacant. There's currently 26 parking spaces on the property. Some of those parking spaces, as we found out during the site plan meeting, are not to the town code, which we're going to go into in some more detail. And then 59% of the property is open and green space. The proposed plan, and what I would suggest too, is that Mr. Wiebe, and we might go back to this if the board pleases with some more detail, but right now it's just more of an overview. So the applicant proposes to install its establishment within the 2 vacant units right here in the middle of the building. And we're not proposing to expand the footprint or change the footprint of the building at all. In terms of the site improvements, some of those include redevelopment in the interior of the units, widening the entrance driveway to provide for a left and right turn lanes right here. So this will widen this entire driveway and then provide a left and a right lane to go on to Plymouth Street. We're going to increase the number of, before I say that, we're going to actually recoat the entire parking lot and repaint the parking spots or spaces so that they comply to the bylaw, which is a 10 by 20 or 200 square foot lot, parking space size. Currently, some of those are 9 by 20 or 9 by 19. So our proposal is to recoat the entire lot and repaint the parking spaces. So that would result in an increase of parking spaces from 26 to 31. So we're adding parking spaces by doing that. What it also does is there was some, and we'll get into this probably in the site plan application, but there was some concern of puddling in the parking spot area, parking lot, and we believe that by recoating that would eliminate the puddling concerns. We're proposing to install a safety guardrail along the south and east corner of the parking lot, which would there you go, was a potential concern from the Armory report in the site plan, which we can get into in a little bit more detail during that phase of this. Oopsies. Hold on one second. Let me just want to go back to
That was, yeah. There you go.
there we go. Okay. And also, we're going to propose to increase the lighting and security cameras on the exterior of the building and also in the interior in the units 2 and 3. In terms of the parking and the tenant parking allocation, again, there's a 3,400 square foot building with currently 26 available parking spaces. We're going to increase that to 32 parking spaces, which will, and also 31 parking spaces, and those 31 parking spaces will include 2 spaces for handicap parking. Up to 19 of those 31 parking spaces will be assigned to Flower and Soul. And based on our analysis of the off-street parking zoning requirements, Flower and Soul's proposal of installing its facility in the 1,700 square feet of the 3,400 square foot building requires us to have 10 parking spaces at a minimum. So we're proposing 19 parking spaces. So we believe that the almost doubling of that requirement, certainly satisfies the requirements in the bylaw, but also we feel that it will be adequate for our customer traffic. So if you look at the proposal, it's a little hard to see, but these are all labeled as FNS or Flower and Soul. There is the handicap spots here. We've got Unit 1, Unit 4, some Unit 1s, Unit 4s here, some more Flower and Soul. Now, currently, Unit 1 and Unit 4 are they're considered a retail use, but I think it's a wood shop.
Yeah, cabinet shop.
Cabinet.
And Paul Reed uses his unit to store security equipment that he retails, I believe, and installs.
Right. So we've obviously provided for 5 parking spots under the code for those tenants as well. We're also providing for a dedicated location or parking spot for the delivery of product, which would be which would be take place in the rear of the building. So that's right in the back spot here. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do, and you just heard from a little bit, but if Brendan can talk a little bit about the actual layout of the interior of the building, I'll just set them up a little bit. This is the proposed floor plan. The front of the building is to the lower portion of the slide. Also, this is where the Plymouth Street would be located, and so the entrance and exit for the customers would be through this entry and exit way right here.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. So, you know, just to kind of walk through the process, someone would be buzzed in through a secure door. Their ID would be checked via a dedicated ID scanner and receptionist. They would then be buzzed into the retail floor and be greeted and make their way to one of the cannabis consultants. Typically, purchases at my retail last between 5 and 8 minutes. So it's really quick turnaround. Majority of our customers reserve ahead. So we would encourage and execute on those same practices here. In terms of the, and by the way, there's a 2-point verification process. So not only is the ID checked at the reception desk, but it will also be checked again at the point of sale. So there's a 2-part process there. The back of house to the left is to serve as obviously a secure vault. So cannabis products will remain in there and they will also be put back there at the end of retail operations. So no cannabis products at any point post-closing will ever be on the retail floor. Everything will be in the vault and secured at all times, particularly outside of hours of operation. As you can see, there's the vault, there's an office area, IT area, and general storage, and of course, restrooms. So this, really is an ideal setup, both from a retail perspective and a back of house perspective. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward flow. As I mentioned, I currently operate 2 already in Massachusetts, and have been doing so now for 2+ years.
Okay.
Excellent.
So what I'd like to do now is ask Corinne to walk us through some of the traffic data points that she's come up with for the presentation here.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Once again,
Welcome.
just to introduce myself. I'm Corinne Tobias with Green International, and I'm here to talk a little bit about traffic. I've been doing traffic studies now for over 10 years, including some in the town of Halifax. So just to kind of start at the beginning for existing conditions, as many of you know, right now, traffic is a little bit different because of COVID. And so as a result of that, Mass DOT has issued some guidance for using a little bit older traffic data and adjusting it upwards in order to reflect kind of current day conditions, or what we consider sort of pre-COVID current day conditions. And so with that, we used data that was collected in 2018 and then used the 1.2% growth rate, which Mass DOT has issued for similar types of areas and roadways as this, and adjusted that upwards to reflect kind of existing pre-COVID conditions. So that's just a little bit of how we got to our existing conditions volumes. We do have it for AM and PM, but I just want to note that for the AM, the site is not going to be open during the AM peak hours, so we really focus more on the PM peak.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So then we looked at trip generation. I know there were some concerns with using sort of internal volumes, so we went with the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE, national standard for recreational marijuana dispensaries. And these, just to clarify, these are trip generation numbers that we use for every type of development in the site. every type of development in the state, whether it's residential or retail, this is kind of the go-to code for that. So with that, we calculated the gross daily site trips based on 1,700 square feet of space. So you have 215 cars taking 430 daily trips on an average weekday. So we just want to clarify that a trip is a one-way trip. So sometimes, you see 38 trips and you think, oh no, there's 38 cars coming into the site during the PM peak hour. But that's not how that's calculated. And you can see here a little bit more clearly that 38 trips represents, 19 trips coming in and 19 trips going out. And so you're not going to have, 40 trips taking a left or anything like that during the PM peak. And as mentioned previously, Flower and Soul is not going to be open during the AM peak. If it were to be open at that time, based on the standard, it would be about 18 trips during the morning. So even in that case, the PM peak would really be the controlling peak hour there. So with that, we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, Corinne, just a quick clarification question on that too.
Yep.
So with the daily trips, if there was one customer in the vehicle, how many customers per day would that be?
215 customers if there's one customer per vehicle.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So I think it's also kind of important to put this in context of what was out there before and what could potentially be out there in the future. The previous use for this site was Stella's Restaurant. So comparing what we have for this site down here and what was generated by a potential fast casual restaurant with the entire building, that would be 536 cars taking 1,072 daily trips on a weekday and 48 trips during the PM peak hour. So this site will have significantly fewer daily trips and also slightly fewer PM peak hour trips. However, as mentioned, it's not taking up the whole building. So we did want to kind of talk about the potential other uses on the site. And this is what, realistically you'll see with a 1,700 square foot space kind of used now for office or office that then transitions into offsite retail. So next slide, please. So in addition to that, we looked into the crash history and we looked at the recent crash history from the Mass DOT crash record system for the last 5 years. And we looked at Plymouth Street and Old Plymouth Street. The one, there's a few of those in town in the vicinity of site. So this is the one closest to our site, just to the east, and Plymouth Street and Pine Street. And what we found is that for both of those intersections, they have crash rates that are not only well below the statewide average, but even more below the district average for unsignalized intersections. So we understand that there's some concerns there, but when you look at the safety data, it actually shows that they're doing better than average for the area. Next slide, please. So next we looked at site distance. And for people who are familiar with the area, it's very flat. It's a fairly straight road. And so you have a lot of site distance. So stopping site distance and intersection site distance are a little bit different, but in both cases, they're well above the minimum required for both the posted speed limit and people driving over the speed limit at 55 miles an hour. So posted is 45, but realistically, we know people do drive a little bit faster out there. So we just want to point out that the site distance works in both cases. Next slide, please. So I know there's some concerns about operations along Plymouth Street. So one thing that we want to point out is that when we looked at the level of service and the delay added to the intersections, the adjacent intersections, there was no measurable impact to intersections along Plymouth Street of Plymouth Street at Pine Street and Plymouth Street at Old Plymouth Street between no build and build conditions. So what does that mean? It means whatever's happening out there without the site is more or less going to be happening out there with the site. So what's happening out there? Well, the eastbound and westbound left turns going into and out of the intersections are operating at a level of service B, which means kind of limited delays, and they're able to kind of make that turn safely and without too many operational considerations. The southbound and northbound left turns, as many people have stated, are operating at level of service F under both the no build and build conditions, but there's really no change in delay. And we also just want to point out that realistically, during the worst peak hour, Flower and Soul will only be adding about 1 vehicle trip per hour to those movements. So that's why you're seeing no measurable impact, even though level of service out there is pretty tight today. As for the site driveway, it will have the same operations as the side streets with the level of service B for the left turns coming in. For the right turns coming out, it's not so bad, but the left turns coming out do experience a level of service F. However, it does have much lower queues than the side streets. Next slide, please. So, as for proposed improvements that are being offered to kind of help mitigate some of the issues and concerns regarding traffic, we've agreed to add speed feedback signs on Plymouth Street to help slow traffic and improve safety. So these are the signs that tell you your current speed and the speed limit, and kind of let people know that they're being watched, and get them to slow down a little bit in that stretch. In addition, it will include a left turn lane out of the site driveway, which is actually better than what you see right now on a lot of the side streets. And mostly that will help facilitate the right turns, because the left turns can get out of the way while they're waiting on site, and right turns can make the turn they need out of the site. Additionally, there will be a police detail for the opening to kind of control any unforeseen traffic issues that might come up during opening. There'll be a dedicated parking attendant who can help manage some of the queues on site or any kind of issues coming in and out with the parking. And in addition, are willing to study a left turn lane into the site. However, I would also point out that the left turns onto the side streets right now help provide some of those gaps needed for people to kind of exit, because while the level of service is still good, they still have to slow down, and that may be enough for somebody else to then get out of a side street onto Plymouth Street. So there's kind of some pros and cons to that, but if that's something that the town is interested in, then we'd be willing to study that and potentially implement that based on what the study would determine. And finally, they would be happy to eliminate the passing lane if that's something that's desired by the town. So with that, I will turn it back over to Brian.
Great, thanks. This is Adam. But
sorry.
Thank you very much, Corinne. And we're going to keep going with our presentation. I'm sure that there's plenty of questions, but we're almost through it. And then obviously, we're here to certainly answer any questions that the board and the public may have. So,
oh yeah, certainly. I'd prefer you to finish before questions.
Great, thank you. So what I want to do is turn it back over to Brendan to talk a little bit about how the traffic and the expected customer counts all kind of play together.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is just talk about the experiences that I've had with our retail shops. My two locations have actually similar population counts, and as you can see on the slide, have a varying degree of daily customers served. We at Orange, we're serving less out-of-state customers because it's not a border community like Williamstown is. So that's why you see a larger gap there. So we're very confident in our ability and in our figures to execute appropriately, thoughtfully, and in a supportive manner with the town. As you can see, the 215 figure that we've estimated, I think is in line with the facts. And, for the record, we've had, we've been responsible community members. We've had no issues with theft or crime. In fact, we have letters of recommendation from each municipality, and we have every intention of operating in that same manner in Halifax.
And can you just talk to the number of dispensaries that are in Massachusetts and the number that in and around the area, and the numbers that are coming up, and how that may decrease our estimated average daily customers?
Absolutely. So, I can speak firsthand. We've noticed a slight dip in our customer count as other groups have opened around us. And we anticipate the same type of drop around Flower and Soul. So, I mean, the amount of operational dispensaries are, as you can see, are 135 adult use. 9 new retail locations have opened within the last month, 30 days, with 12 more preparing to open in the next 30 days. Currently, 12 operational dispensaries, are within 15 miles of 894 Plymouth Street, and another 3 within 30 miles. Moreover, there are an additional 16 dispensaries within 15 miles of the proposed facility, and another 2 within 25 miles that are in the licensing phase with the CCC. There's also a second dispensary negotiating its HCA with Halifax. Therefore, we believe that as additional dispensaries open in surrounding towns and within Halifax, our estimated average daily customers served will actually decrease over time.
Great, thank you. So what I want to do, just want to skip over that. We'll get back to that, but just want to switch to fire and safety real quick. So Flower and Soul has been working with the fire chief for months now. We'll continue to work with the fire department and the fire chief to complete its intricate mitigation system, which consists of horns and strobes, which will be in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. It would also include fire extinguishers in accordance with also all applicable codes and regulations. Flower and Soul is certainly agreeable to installing a knock box that would be available to be opened by only first responders or fire and police and fire in the event of emergencies. And Flower and Soul is certainly going to be keeping the fire department and the chief up to date as it moves through the process, and we'll work with them when they get to the stage of creating construction drawings.
Excuse me. Yeah, one thing I'd like to mention too. One thing I did not cover as part of the layout at the retail facility is that at each POS there's a panic button. At the reception area there's a panic button. Everything is is on surveillance 24/7. It's actually part of the CCC regulations that require us to be able to pull video footage at any given time. So my apologies for not pointing that out before, but here we are.
Yeah, so
sorry.
Good segue to so we talked about the fire and right into security, and that's exactly right. I mean, the intent of Flower and Soul is to provide a safe environment for safe and discreet dispensing of marijuana products. I mean, that's exactly what we're trying to do here. As Brendan said, the employees will be stationed at the entrance of the establishment to monitor and ensure compliance with all site regulations. This is a comprehensive identification verification process, 2-part process requiring ID checks in 2 different locations. There is going to be an increased surveillance, state-of-the-art surveillance systems, which will be monitoring 24 hours and 7 days a week. The marijuana products will be secured in vaults during and outside of operational hours. And to Brendan's point, we will be installing panic buttons at the reception and all of POS, which is point of sale stations. Just in terms of what the physical building looks like, these are photos of the building and where we would be installing cameras. So this is the front. We install cameras there. This is the side. We install a camera there. The other side, and the rear, where the cameras would be. In terms of lighting, this would be the lighting scheme. I believe too that there was a concern about one of the existing lights that was shining and did not have a visor on it. So I believe that after our last meeting, after the site plan meeting, Brian Wall, first thing he did is made a call, and that visor got put on. So we just want to note that for the board. Just keep going here. The lighting, we did get some renderings of what the lighting may look like in the event that our lighting scheme is approved. This just shows the top view, front and back, and how different wattages of the lighting would affect the parking in the building at night. What I want to do, just go back a couple real quick to kind of a summary of the traffic and parking mitigations that we're proposing to do. It's a little bit of redundancy, but I really want to hit home that to reduce any concerns of parking and traffic impact, we're going to encourage customers to schedule their visits or offer curbside pickup. We want the customers to purchase online ahead of time before they visit the establishment. We're going to install two, I call them flashing, but Corinne had a much better name for it, which is, I forget what you call them, Karen, I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's the flashing speed feedback signs.
Yes, that's it, right. The flashing feedback signs. So we're proposing to install those in and along 106 where the board and the town deem fit. Flower and Soul agrees to a police detail for a period of a couple of weeks during peak hours from the beginning of its operations. Install neighborhood signs in areas in the vicinity of the establishment that would say residential only signs, no parking. We would install we're proposing to install a dedicated right and left turn lane, so leaving the property onto Plymouth Street, Route 106. We're going to recoat the parking lot, as we said, and bring those existing parking spaces up to code while increasing the parking spaces to 31. And Flower and Soul is going to dedicate a parking personnel who will be responsible for making sure that the customers are abiding by the parking requirements and on the property. Just in terms of benefits to the town, we're getting close here to the end. We believe that the town benefits in a number of different ways. Like I said, we've negotiated and are entering into a host community agreement with the town that would provide for a 3% community impact fee of gross sales revenue to be paid to the town. Also, the town will benefit from sales tax from Flower and Soul's sales. The establishment will result in well-paid salary jobs, and Flower and Soul will seek to employ a majority of its workforce from the local community, specifically candidates that reside in town. Flower and Soul also encourages applicants from and recruits of women, veterans, and minority candidates by publishing notifications in local papers encouraging these candidates to apply for employment opportunities. And Flower and Soul really wants to be an active and contributing member to the town's business community, and will continue to build positive relationships with the community and the town by participating in neighborhood civic and business events and associates, and providing support toward charitable and community building initiatives, and by having a robust community outreach program to ensure that Flower and Soul proposed establishment is built on a foundation of local input. In conclusion, we feel that the applicant, Flower and Soul, meets the requirements of a special permit. We think that the establishment will not impair the integrity of the zoning district or adjoining districts, or otherwise degrade from the intent and the purpose of the bylaw. The proposal is designed to blend with the existing characteristics of the building and the surrounding area. We're not proposing to make any changes other than security changes to the building. We believe that providing a safe and secure retail establishment where all customers are required to show positive identification is critical and can certainly benefit. And we feel that by adding a state-of-the-art security system, adding vehicle parking, right and left turn lanes, improving 106 as proposed, that all these do not, all of these will not have a detriment to the characteristics of the neighborhood or the town, and actually will give benefit. So I think with that, we're done. If the board would like to go over the plans in a little bit more detail, I know that Joe Webby is here, if it pleases the board.
Excellent. Thank you for the presentation. I do have a few questions, and if Mr. Webby is available, actually, the first one would actually be towards him. Joe, if you're here.
Yes, Joe Webby here.
Hey, Joe. I just had questions on the changing of the pavement. Where they're adding that extra lane in the entrance, other than that first 30 feet or so off of the road, would that be the only change to the existing pavement?
No, we're going to square off if we're looking at the plan, the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay.
We can see, we're going to add just that, you can see a little triangle area there. We're going to square that off.
Okay.
So there's a little pavement there, and then the additional 12 feet to add the third lane going out onto Plymouth Street.
Okay. Okay, so other than those changes, the site itself will remain unchanged?
Yes, I think the only other addition would be the guardrail going around the pavement to protect the cars from going into the drainage system.
Okay, excellent. All right, that was my question regarding plans. Anyone else have any comments regarding the site plan itself? I'm not sure. I believe some people might be on mute. I had a little trouble in the beginning.
Hey, Mark, this is Brendan. This is Brendan Elliott.
Hey, Brendan.
So this is an open-ended question. It can either be for Corrine or for Adam, and I think it's either Brendan or Brandon. Sorry if I didn't get it right. We've probably been getting called wrong our entire lives, right? So, so one of the things that I'll mention is there is a marijuana dispensary place in Middleborough called Panacea Wellness. They're a big active member of the Middleborough community, part of the Chamber of Commerce. They do a ton of business and are a big community contributor. I will say they're located on 44, which is actually a very similar type of roadway as 106 in Halifax as far as traffic goes. I'm struggling a little bit with the data that's coming from Orange, Mass, or Middleton, Mass, which is obviously not even close to Halifax, right? So I was curious if there's any way to be able to, maybe Corrine, you can pull this in, more accurate data to something that's a little bit closer to our location, specifically Panacea, because you drive by that location and it's a massive warehouse with probably 85 parking spaces, and they're all packed like all throughout the day, every time we drive by. So I'm all about bringing in a dispensary and things like that, just making sure that I think one of the main concerns as we're talking around town is the traffic flow. And so I think maybe just getting a little bit more accurate to closer mileage to us would really be what my concern and my question would be, if we can find that, if that's possible.
Sure. So I'll speak to that a little bit. I think you kind of actually highlighted one of the differences yourself, which is that it's a massive location. And that is also going to be a driver of, to some extent, the traffic as well. So it wouldn't necessarily be an apples to apples comparison in that sense, because usually these things are sort of adjusted by square feet. The bigger the store, the more things available and the more customers you might have. One thing I'll say is it's right now we can't really go out and do new counts because of COVID. So any data we would be able to collect right now would be kind of questionable as a result of that. So kind of the best we can do is using sort of the national standard volumes and the other information we have for similar size sites. Unfortunately, right now, if things were different, we would maybe go out and do a count of that site and compare it. But even then, you would want to adjust it for size, just because, as I said, that really does make an impact in terms of kind of your customer base and who's going to be showing up. So yeah, I'm not sure there's a great way to bring that in right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, understanding that the information that's available today wouldn't be that more accurate than the standard that you were following. But as far as the flow into the building, what would be the maximum amount of people you would have in the building, actually just customers at one point? Maybe that would help, because then we could help quantify the flow by how many people we'd have in and out at one particular time.
So I guess I wasn't sure where that question was directed.
Yeah, I would, again, just to go back to the operational component, we have the ability to, make it appointments and put a certain appointments in per hour. So, to answer your question, I think at any given moment, there'd be anywhere from 3 to as many as maybe 6 or 7 people in the retail at any given moment. But more likely somewhere close to, somewhere between 3 and 5 customers.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Adam Brayler. Corinne, do you want to just reiterate the peak?
Sure. So one of the things that we did look at was the difference between sort of the daily trips and what the peak trips were. And so what the peak trips showed was 19 cars coming in and 19 cars coming out. So that's roughly, your one highest hour of the day. That's more or less what you'd see there.
And yeah, and just to go back to the data that we brought from the other dispensaries, part of the reason why we brought those in is to try to really get an apples to apples, not only by overall population in the town, but also what our thoughts were on the traffic flow on those roads, and also bringing Brendan's institutional knowledge of those establishments.
All right. Well, it also seems like you're trying to address the issue of getting the people in and out by adding that extra lane. That does seem like it will relieve some of the stress of it.
Yeah, and I think what that really does is it allows, we know the left turns are going to have some delay getting out onto Plymouth Street, but it does allow the right turns to kind of get out of the way, so we can clear up some of the queuing on site.
It also looks like the site is providing traffic flow around the building, I believe.
That's correct.
Which should help.
I was going to ask if the parking spots that were in the back were going to be parallel or on an angle, because we had chatted about that on May 6th. and said that the diagonals were gonna be a little tight, so what are we talking?
So we're proposing diagonals at this point. Joe, can you speak to the distance?
Yes, yeah, the parking spaces will all be 10 by 20s. And 16 feet from the 20 feet of the rear of the parking to the buildings is easily enough room for a car or a pickup truck to back out and proceed, in this case, to the right, to the east. 16 feet is no problem at all to back up.
Okay, that's the dimension there that on that last space on the left. Okay.
That's correct, yes.
And then my other thoughts kind of move to security. So you have the receptionist area that has a security area, like, you have to get buzzed through into the store. Now I see 2 doors into where the vault is that are directly out into the parking lot. And so there's a prop sensor and cameras. And is there any other security for those doors? Actually, there's another one behind the consultants as well. Do you hear what I'm trying to ask you?
Sorry, we were muted, my fault.
So are you asking if we would integrate or implement like a 2-door system on the back of house side?
No, I'm just asking you what you plan. I'm not asking you to implement that as of this second. I just was curious to see what your security is on the doors that reach right out into the street, like, prop sensors to make sure they're not open, cameras. Is there anything else that you're using for security?
Yeah, so those doors would be, there would be internal controls, so with limited access to those doors via a fob system that we would manage and control. So for example, if say, we separate employment with someone, their keys would be immediately turned off and they would no longer have access to the facility. And yes, of course, there will be cameras pointing down and also pointing out, like a fisheye camera or cameras, excuse me, multiple. So every square inch of the facility is completely monitored per the CCC guidelines.
And then I think we discussed snow removal the last time we were going. Were you going to push it off to the side where we're installing the guardrail?
This is Adam. Joe, I think discussed pushing it off to the west on the grass. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's plenty of room on the west side of the parking lot. We really don't want to push snow into our drainage basins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from board members? I'd like to open up to the public if not.
Yeah, I had a question about access into the store. I mean, is this a place where people come in and they're there for a while shopping, trying to find something, or is this more specific to just a few products there and they're in and out? As to the length of time that they're there, as to the number of customers that you would be having at one time?
Yeah, so our average transaction time is, typically between 5 and 8 minutes. Of course, there's new consumers who require a little bit more compassion, a little bit more attention at first. So absolutely, there's going to be individuals that come in and are maybe there for closer to 10 or 15 minutes. But we actually have a pretty sophisticated dialogue system set up to best address and recommend cannabis wellness products. So even with someone who's never been to a cannabis establishment, we very rarely see transaction times go beyond 10, 12, or 15 minutes.
So that's how you're keeping the customers moving in and out quicker?
Correct. And our Williamstown location, actually every single customer reserves ahead. So not a single person comes in and actually puts an order together. Everything's actually ordered in advance.
So you have the order together, they come in, take it, and they're gone.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, if there's anyone from town that has any questions or comments, I'd like to open it up.
I believe Chris had had a hand up in the middle of the traffic conversation, if I noticed.
All right. If we could open up for Chris.
Yeah, this is Chris Winowitz from 129 Circuit Street.
Welcome.
I just got questions from the very start of this at all the meetings with selectmen and stuff. It seems their numbers have constantly changed. There's been misleading statements that they've talked about. Stuff about talking to the police chief, which when I've spoken to him, they haven't. This just seems to keep constantly changing to make their numbers look better. Specifically the traffic. I noticed one thing. We had talked in a previous meeting and they agreed that I think we could get up to 50 cars an hour, but now we're doing only 19 trips. So the data keeps changing. And then like Stella's restaurant, they use that as a fast casual restaurant. So it would have similar traffic. I think anyone that's lived in town their whole lives know Stella's wasn't like that. And that was 30 years ago or something.
All right. I think it was used as an example of what could be on that site. I loved Stella's as a kid, but we all know that they didn't have that many people. I think that was just used as an example of a proper use for that property, and if there was one there today, what it could produce. If that helps clarify.
Correct.
Didn't you use it as traffic too?
No.
No, it's just saying that if there was a newer establishment on that property that could be and would be permitted, that would be the type of flow that would be expected. Not that Stella's itself saw that, but if there was one there today, it would.
Okay, then where is this data coming from? Obviously, I think you said it's not real life. They didn't go out and measure it.
Yeah, again, I could see where they realistically can't. I think if they had provided that traffic study, the numbers would have been so low, it would have been far worse than what they're presenting us now, just because the amount of traffic has actually slowed down or would have been significantly slower when they actually had done the study. If they had done the study beforehand, it would have been probably peak COVID, and it would have really skewed the numbers. So by using the ones from 2018 with I believe it's like 101.2%, that's a fairly accurate representation.
Can I ask why they didn't use anything out of the Plymouth County study that was physically measured, I believe, in 2019, which brought up a lot of concerns in this corridor right here, with a lot of entering side streets north to south, which this business is going to be from the south entering, had failing grade in the F.
All right. I'm not familiar with the study, but we could definitely ask Corinne to address that if she'd like.
Sure. I actually just want to point out that the volumes we use are from that study. It was a 2019 study, but the counts were collected in 2018. So that's where they're coming from. And then we adjusted them upwards because the study is a little bit old. So we wanted to make sure that we're reflecting, even a more kind of future condition with because it is a little bit older data. But that is actually where the counts come from.
So all the concerns that were pointed out in that study are still valid, how there's no breaks in traffic and it causes people to do risky maneuvers to pull out either left or right in front of traffic?
So the conclusions about the level of service for the, people coming out and turning left is F, and that's still true. Yes, that's what we were saying. For left turns in, it's not so tight. But again, this site is only going to be adding about 1 car per hour to those movements.
Well, I think if anyone that lives in town knows what Pine Street and some of the other side streets, Carver Street, trying to pull out to 106 at, the evening commuting hour, and that's going to be the height of this place. So how is all the traffic going to get out of this parking lot when there's a constant stream of traffic on 106 at like 50 miles an hour? And unlike even the other places, this location's even worse with the highest speed and the passing lane, which I know you said you could remove it, but it's still a worse location than even those other side streets.
So the left turn lane coming out helps. That's part of what that's about, is to, most of the side streets don't have that left turn lane. And that'll allow the right turns to get out sooner. And then the speed feedback display signs are also there to kind of help slow down traffic in front of the site, because as you noted, speeds there are a bit of an issue.
And we kind of all know a lot of people ignore those. In the left turn lane, so there's a car in the left lane and right lane, you know how hard it is too. You're trying to look through the car to the left to see if you can pull out into 106. So you try to inch forward so you can see. I mean, these are all issues. This is not a good location.
All right. As far as the numbers, I know you had issues that. Do you feel as if we've satisfied concerns on that?
No, because I still have concerns that their numbers keep changing. I mean, a previous meeting, I think we agreed that there could be like a car or trip, she calls it, coming in and out once every minute. I mean, a constant flow of cars. And right now, 106 is pretty much unimpeded that way. When everyone commutes, you get on, you're 50 miles an hour all the way to, into East Bridgewater. So now it's going to become a big jam for everyone commuting, cars coming in and out, cars stopping on 106 to make a left turn in, right turn in.
All right, understood.
We still didn't address that if there is a traffic jam, all our side streets, people like drive by because they can't get in and GPS tells them to go down Laurel Street, Circuit Street.
I believe that was addressed where they were willing to put signage in for residents only.
We have signs now from other traffic issues and no one abides by them at all. People blow through the stop signs and other things. It says neighborhood traffic, people go right by it.
Okay. As far as traffic, do you have any other concerns or questions?
The parking spaces, is there enough parking spaces for employees and retail customers? As you said, that they are labeled as retail for ever future use of these buildings?
Yeah, I do believe she added on for the proper or estimated usage for the other 2 units as well.
Which is what, 4 or 5 per unit?
The parking is 5 per unit, yes.
And that includes customers and employees?
That's correct.
And the lighting too. I mean, you said it was going to be on the building, but is that going to be shining out to the neighborhoods, or you're talking more security lighting? Because we've always had issue with lightings that's there now that had to be covered.
Yeah, the lighting will be contained to within the property.
And now they've repeatedly said they want to put landscaping up, I guess, to make it so we can't see it, make it look appeasing. Yeah, I don't see any of that in the site plan to hold them to it. They could say that.
I'm not sure what agreement you're referring to, but I do not see any plantings.
I mean, they've said it in selectmen meetings and previous planning board meetings that they're willing to do all that. I mean, because our houses look directly at this building. That's all you can see at night, daytime. There's another house, I mean, that looks 30 feet right across the street. But
Right.
I don't see anything on that plan that will hold them to it if you give them the special permit.
Chris,
Okay. Any other questions or that you have?
That's it for now.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public?
I wanted to help Chris out with the parking mark, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Okay, so in 167, 14F, there's a caveat for having green space on the lot that allows the 100 square feet per, I'm sorry, one space for each 100 square feet to go for one space for each 175 square feet. So when you do that, you end up with having 10.28 parking spots. So if you even bring it up to 11 parking spots, and then you have 5 for employees, that's going to leave 16, and they're stating they have 19. So they are within the bylaw for parking.
Mr. Braillard, can you
Thank you
actually
for
go back
clarifying.
a slide so we can see the parking spots, just so that everybody, because it seems like we're talking about the parking, so it'll just be easier to have that slide up. Thank you.
I
Yeah,
understand.
thank you. And thank you for clarifying that.
I understand that they might have enough, but I'm saying, is it taken away from the other units for what they use it for now or future use?
Then there's still
Yeah, there
12
is still additional.
parking spots, and they're only using them as, I think it's one's a painting warehouse, and Mark, do you know what the other one is? I can't remember.
Yeah, so I believe a wood shop, and one is just storage for the owner's electrical supplies.
If
So
somebody
right now, the usage creates minimal traffic and or cars.
If somebody else goes in, they have to come back.
Yes, certainly.
Has there been a conversation with the other two business owners that utilize that area, and just what was that conversation, if so?
Sure, Mr. Elliott, let me introduce again Brian Wall, who I think joined us, and I know who's had those conversations. Brian, you there?
Yep. I apologize to the board for being late. I had the first part of my daughter's high school graduation, baccalaureate mass tonight, so I apologize for being late.
Congratulations.
Family first, Brian. Family first.
So the Bay State Alarm is owned by Paul Reed. He owns the building, and he only uses the building to maintain his alarm service supplies. You know, he goes early in the morning to pick up the any supplies, and doesn't use the building for any other services of that. You know, we have not asked to use his spots with this board. Mr. Reed has said he never uses the spots. We want his spots to be clearly documented and allocated to him. But those spots, will not be used by his truck. He has, one truck, I believe, maybe two. I think his one employee takes the other truck home. And then the cabinet maker who is in Unit 4, according to Mr. Reed, is, he makes the custom cabinets 1 or 2 nights a week, gets there about 8 o'clock, works it, pulls his truck through the back into his unit, and then, installs cabinets the rest of the week. He's a sole proprietor. He has no employees. So we've had those conversations with Mr. Reed. We're happy to, if the board required it, to get a letter from Paul Reed stating that, if it requires so, but we have had, countless conversations with him if they're going to use those spots, currently or in the future.
All right, excellent.
Could I say one? Do our bylaws really matter if it states from an owner that says, oh, I'm not going to use my spots or not?
Well, no, but you do have to remember that this is part of the process. This is what we do. We look at these each time that there's a proposal. So it gives us the insight, because when other people have come in for uses on the building, we're already taking into consideration what they're used for, what's in there now. So this is part of our process. We're already familiar with what's in the building and the usage. When those things change, to Gordon's point, that's when they come back. If someone wanted to put another heavy flow type use in that building after this, that's when we'd look at it and say, hey, we have a lot of flow in there already. So I believe right now the fact that it has very low flow and usage for the other two does speak well for it. And that would not change without impact and input from the town. There would be no greater use in the future without input from us.
Agreed. And they are well within that because they only need to have 5 per unit and they're not even using that.
And Chris, the reason why I asked about the abutting businesses was to make sure, exactly what that was. If that was a high flow business area, or even if in any way, shape or form, the new increase in traffic was going to in any way impact their business, then we as the board would have to take that into consideration. Right. And so that's essentially why I wanted to clarify that. So as much as you as an abutting resident is your opinion and feelings are just as important. So are the abutting businesses. So that was the purpose for my question.
Was that
Yeah,
Brendan?
all valid points.
Yeah, that was me.
I noticed you made 1.2 about using references to other marijuana dispensaries so far away.
Yep.
There's the one in Rockland, which seems to be similar to this, a smaller building. And I've seen posts, people saying that the traffic is like so much traffic in and out there, constant traffic, and they got it well managed. But that's still, like you said, a point. There's so much traffic, but they didn't compare it to something like that.
So I want to be clear only because you're asking me to something that I spoke on earlier. The planning board, from what my recollection is, even being newer on the board, but referring back to the people who have been on the board much longer than myself, is our job is to get the information and refer back to the bylaws and make sure that the community is heard. So I don't know about the dispensary in Rockland. I do know about the dispensary in Rockland only because of my involvement with the Chamber of Commerce and actually going into their building and seeing the multiple levels of security that they put you through to walk through and kind of the control that they have over the situation and the flow of business. So my main concern is for people like you, Chris, that are the residents and kind of what kind of impact that's going to have on you and the town of Halifax. And really my thing is in section 12 on page 25 for our board is, in conclusion, it says, how is the established or future character of the neighborhoods within Halifax going to be affected? I think that's probably where we're at now. Because I think from the site plan, it seems like they're lining up with everything that is that they've been asked for, but now it's going to start lining up with the character and how it impacts the people that are in the community around that business. So I think that, unless I'm wrong, Chris, am I right to interpret that correctly with what you're talking?
On my computer, your audio cut out for part of that, but I did catch the end of it, and I think that's the biggest concern is the traffic and their numbers keep changing. What it's based on and the impact that's go beyond this town. Because so much.
All right. We definitely agree on the traffic thing, but the numbers that they present to us, that's it. So whether they were presented at the selectmen or for another thing, just we'll keep an eye on to make sure that the numbers presented to us don't change. That is something that we will be, that's something we keep an eye on. We make sure that what we sign off for is what was proposed.
And I guess the numbers too, the other thing is I noticed they used Old Plymouth Street, which I think is the closest end of Old Plymouth Street, which probably has the least amount of traffic. They didn't use, is it Old Plymouth Street where it comes out near Cranberry Drive that has a lot more similar traffic?
It is.
They didn't seem to use that one or Carver Street or 105.
Carver Street and 105 are too far for them to consider.
But it is similar traffic trying to pull onto 106 from the side.
Yes.
I just want to speak to that a little bit, and the reasons that we chose those locations is because they were the most reasonable path to and from the site from the north and the south. So if you're going south, you would take Pine Street. And if you're going north, you would take that first left on Old Plymouth Street. You wouldn't pass it to get to the next one or the one after that and then double back. And so that's why we don't necessarily, assume that people would be kind of going out of their way to go to the next intersection down. We assign them to the closest intersections available.
So you're talking about using those streets per adding just a little more volume? Is that?
I'm talking about where the traffic's going at.
Not the difficulty of pulling out of a side street onto 106.
No, her
think
numbers are based on the flow of traffic. It's not a rating of difficulty.
No, but I think she said she used those because that's where people would come from. So, but did you use the amount of numbers of those cars moving in those higher flow side streets that would more match the higher volume coming out of this place and the difficulties of coming on and off 106?
I'm not sure I follow the question. We're looking to measure kind of the impact of this site. And so that's why we looked at the locations where the vehicles to and from this site would be, as opposed to, other intersections where the vehicles to and from the site would not have as much of an impact because they're not using those intersections the same way.
Corinne, could we go back to that screen that shows the traffic so that we can all look at it? 'Cause I was going to ask you one question.
You want to go back one more, I think, to the
Yeah.
existing? Is that what you're referring?
The one that shows
The
how
site
many
trips?
cars are going each way. Not this. Next one. This one. I had a question on, all right, so see site driveway, and then there's 1,168 cars going east. When you get to Old Plymouth Street, you go down, I guess 51 cars are going to go down Old Plymouth Street. Is that what you're stating?
Correct. That's correct. That's how
And
many
that's
cars
why
are
it dropped to 117.
correct.
And then when you get to 1,162 going at the Pine Street going east, that's because you've gained 29 and 6. Hold on, just looking here. 29,
So-
10, 49, 39 cars.
Sorry.
So it goes back up to 1,162 cars going east.
That's correct. So there's other kind of land uses in there and curb cuts.
Yeah,
So these volumes aren't balanced, if that's what you mean.
yeah,
They were measured independently from each other.
okay.
How come on the site, it's had site driveway, there's no numbers for left or right?
So that was our observations when we were there at the peak hour. As you probably know, the traffic volumes today, they didn't count the side driveway, right? So we had those observations during the peak hour. However, when we go to the future for no build and build, we do add in our site generated trips, but also the other uses for the no build. So these are our site trips.
You have 8 and 11
Correct. Coming out. and
at
coming
peak
in.
hour,
That's correct.
and that's for a whole hour?
Yep. And just to be clear.
So that's what I
about-
mean. In a previous meeting, that's way lower than the numbers.
So just to be clear about kind of the data sources and previous numbers and things, I'll just say this is the first time I've presented any numbers. We base these numbers on sort of the national and state standards for all traffic studies. They get their data set from studies and counts that they've done of similar uses across the country. So that's where these numbers are used. They're from actual counts that were done at sites and surveys across the country. And this is, whether it's a residential development we're talking about or a retail development or any kind of development, these are the numbers. This is the data source that we use for traffic studies. It's a Mass DOT standard. It's a national standard. And so what you saw before was some local data that was provided by the developer for their understanding from their own internal knowledge of the site. And I'm not saying that anything about that is necessarily incorrect or anything like that. I'm telling you that's where these numbers came from. And they're the only numbers that sort of as traffic engineers, this is what we use.
All right.
That doesn't mean the local data would not be relevant or was incorrect. It's just a different source.
That's right. I think I no longer want to field any more questions as far as the credibility of the numbers. If you have any other comments, I would certainly be willing to listen to them.
No, not yet.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
And this would be on the site plan, on the special permit, not the site plan. The site plan's coming up, correct?
Yep, site plan will be next. All right. Barring no more questions or comments,
Yeah.
like to.
Do you have any comments from the chief?
Check correspondence here. If anybody has those up.
I think I saw Joe and Betty unmuted. I don't know if they have something that they want to speak to.
They do live in the area. Yeah.
Usually when somebody unmutes, it means they have a question. So I just want to make sure before we move on that they have a chance to speak.
All right. Unfortunately, I don't know how to. I don't think I'm in control of opening it up to them, but if we could, or if they are willing to speak or ready to speak.
Well, they are unmuted, so.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm just not sure if Charlie has to do something. I'm not good at this podcast.
No, I usually when somebody unmutes, they have something to say, but maybe they unmuted by accident. So whenever I see an unmute come off, that's usually somebody might have something to say. But if they don't, then we can progress to the next.
Mark, if they're ready to talk, their mic's on. They're anytime they want to go.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Charlie. All right. Well, at this time, I'd like to thank you for the presentation. I believe you've answered all our questions.
Great, thank you very much. Can we ask a procedural question?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Great, so I think that the question just in general with the special permit is what would be the next steps for the board and the applicant in terms of closing the hearing or making voting on the decision.
I believe what we will be doing is we're going to be closing the public hearing. Then we will actually be opening the appointment, which is for the official site plan review, which we're gonna try to go quickly, but rehash some of this stuff and take it from there. So we will have to stop the public hearing and then proceed with the site plan.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. All right, do I have a motion?
I'll motion to close the public hearing of the Halifax Planning Board from Thursday. Am I doing this correct, Mark? May 20th, 2021 at 7:05.
Yep.
Via Zoom on the application by Flower and Soul, owner Buddy Miles, to be located in two units. Units 2 and 3 at 894 Plymouth Street, Halifax, Mass. 02338, as shown on Assessors Map 58, Lot 4-0-R, Book 46591, page 133, to obtain a special permit as defined under Halifax zoning bylaw sections 167-3 and 167-7. Schedule of use regulations, specific use regulations for marijuana establishments. I can't talk today. The applicant is seeking to operate the marijuana dispensary and establishment in Unit 2, which is 900 square feet for retail, and Unit 3 for storage in an employee area. There will be 26 customer parking spaces and 5 employee parking spaces, area zone business, which has been adjusted, correct?
Yep.
So close the hearing.
Yep, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Mark, I
Favor?
think you might have to take a roll call vote.
Okay. Gordon,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Mark, yes. Okay. It is now 8:28. We will now begin the site plan review. And hopefully no one left. So time being 8:28, like to continue the hearing for Flower and Soul for the site plan review.
Thank you, members of the board. I just had another question on, and I apologize for not asking it earlier, in connection with the process. When we opened the site plan hearing on the 6th of May, I believe that there was 4 members of the board. Mr. Milius, I do not believe you were in attendance there.
I was not.
And Mr. Elliott, I do not believe that you were on the board at that point.
Right.
Just my only question is with respect to quorum, Mr. Elliott, I'm not.
Oh, I understand.
I think the only question I really have is, Mr. Millis, if you believe that you're caught up with the prior application, I think we're all set in the hearing. I just wanted to point that out to the board.
I think there was still 3 of us because it was Rick, Mary, Gordon, Ari Andrews, and myself. So I think that's 3, which is still a quorum.
And I believe Mark could review the video and be caught up as well.
Yes, I have no problem doing that. I assume there no problems with that or concerns.
I was also in attendance for that meeting. Sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was also in attendance for the meeting. Obviously, just didn't have any voting rights. But yeah, I think we're good to go from that standpoint.
Thank you. I just wanted to point that out. I think that's correct. And with
That's an excellent point. That's a odd circumstance, though.
we want to make sure everything's proceeding correctly. So with that, if it pleases the board, what I'd like to do is share my screen again and do 2 things. I'd like to introduce for the board Corinne again, who was not at the prior meeting, and also let the board know that Brian Wall is on, who we've introduced in the prior site plan meeting, as well as Brendan Mckee and myself, Adam Braillard, and Joe Webby is also here for the site plan to answer any questions. So during that site plan meeting on the 6th, we presented a site plan that was had not accounted for any of the concerns that I'll call it the Armory town third-party report had in it. So because we had gotten that report, I think a couple of days before that meeting. So since that meeting, I know that Joe has reviewed that report we have as a team at length and provided some comments to that report. We've also made changes to our site plan, which I'll reference that we went over in the special permit, but I know this being a different meeting, that we would want to reference those again. So I think the best thing to do, if it pleases the board and the team's okay with it, Joe, if I shared my screen and went over the before and after plans, do you think you could point out the changes that we've made?
Yes, Joe Webby Engineering. We reviewed Pat Brennan's review from Amory Engineers, and we submitted basically a letter to the board as well as revised plans. And if you'd like me, there's 12 items. If you'd like me to go over each one, I certainly can very easily. Mark, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, item one of Pat Brennan's report was about the parking spaces, basically being some of them that he had measured were not 10 by 20s. And our answer to that and our revision was that Flower and Soul has agreed to put a top coat of pavement on the entire parking lot and then restripe all the parking spaces to be 10 by 20, which is would conform to your zoning bylaws. Number two was allocation of the parking spaces. We did label the parking spaces so that the units 1 and 4 have their designated spots, and the rest would be for Flower and Soul. Number 3 was a discussion on the 40-degree angled parking and to the rear of the building and the flow. And we have designated those spaces in the rear of the building. There was a question about van deliveries to the rear, and it may impede traffic. So we're going to have a dedicated space in the rear of the building that will be for deliveries. Brian can speak on the size vehicle, but we were told it would just be a van that delivers the merchandise. And that spot is going to be closest to the door where they would be bringing that into the building. Number 4 was the lighting issue, and I think we've already spoke about that. Brian had enlisted help from Glenn Engineering to put where the lighting should be. So there's a plan, I believe. Well, I shouldn't say believe, but I believe Glenn Electric is handling the electric of the lights outside. Number 5, Pat Brennan had asked that we show what the existing grades were right now on the parking lot. More specifically, he wanted to know where those puddles were that were during a rainstorm, some water was settling. We went out there and did a topography of the existing parking lot as it is now, as well as the drainage basin, and we've added that all to our plans. Number 6 was the squaring off of the southwest corner of the parking lot. And the question was, would that impact the underground storage tank that's there? And I believe we're saying that if that tank has to be moved, it'll be moved. And number 7, the existing septic tank covers on the west side of the building. Whoever paved that pavement did not raise the rim and covers to grade, and they just left the covers below the surface, and they were collecting water, as well as the tight tank on the rear right-hand corner, where there's a tight tank that got completely paved over. So we're calling for now that those rims and grades on those 2 tanks be brought up to grade when they put a top coat of pavement on the whole parking lot.
And they'll be watertight too, right?
I'm sorry, Amy, what was that?
And it also says, I was just helping you, and it says that they'll be watertight too.
Yeah, they definitely have to be watertight, yes. And then number 8, the drainage base, Patrick had a question of whether we had a bioretention basin or just a regular drainage basin. It's not made to have a bioretention. It's just a regular drainage basin that where the water will disappear within the 72-hour period. We have no intention of growing any type of grasses or reeds or wetland plants out there. Number 9 was the operation and maintenance and mowing of the basins. And Flower and Soul has agreed to take over the maintaining of the lawns in the basins. And Brian's on board with that. Number 10 was a couple of those puddles would be the front right-hand corner of the building. Those puddles will disappear when we put the top coat of pavement. So that will eliminate the puddling. Number 10, no, that is number 10. Number 11, again, the tight tank that's in the rear of the building on the right-hand side. It definitely is there, and that those covers will have to be brought to grade prior to the pavement. And number 12, Patrick's comments was that he had a question of whether or not there should be some type of guardrail on the south side and the back on the rear of the parking lot to prevent any type of vehicles from accidentally entering the drainage system. And Flower and Soul has agreed to put up a wood guardrail all along that area. I have not heard back from Patrick. I don't know if the board has.
I don't see any correspondence. Anybody else?
Yeah, not that I know of.
I'll double check our email.
Cool, thank you. Okay, it sounds as though they've been addressed. Any questions or comments from the board?
My only comment on the lighting would be that there wouldn't be any lighting shining on any of the other properties around the area.
Agree. The chief.
Sorry, Amy. Our whole intention is to work with, top of the line electrical engineering firms, Chief Chavez in the neighborhoods, to not shine lights. I don't want to have to put shields on. We want to get it right the first time. That's why we reached out to one of the biggest firms, I think out there, done a lot of commercial property, can do, I think they call it like moonlighting or something. So it shines down, so it doesn't shine outwards. So we're definitely, our number one priority when we talked to them was, making sure I communicated what the chief had communicated for it's safe for his patrols to patrol the building. But, also we do not want to have any impact on the neighborhood. So we hear that loud and clear, and that will be our number one priority around any of our lighting.
Excellent. As long as if you can get close to what was depicted in those images, that would be ideal. That looks well contained.
I think they would be able to provide us with a plan that shows how many looms there are at the property line and so forth. It's a pretty typical plan that they should be able to come up with.
Yeah, certainly, especially with that graphic they got. I'm sure they have that.
We'll get that information from an electrical engineer firm.
And just.
Yeah, so you can see as depicted, it doesn't leave the site, which is what we would like.
So, to answer the question on Amory, page 65 to 67 of our packets is from Amory, and it says, "Dear Planning Board members, this is to advise that we have reviewed the following documents in support of the proposed adult use retail marijuana store proposed." It says that there was a site plan modification of 894 Plymouth Street on May 12th, where he sent 3 sheets. And then May 13th, there was response to the comments prepared by Webby. And this letter is dated May 17th. And all he said is, if we have any questions, please give him a call. So it was everything that we just went over with Joe. And at the end, it just said, should you have any questions? So it referenced, because Joe, can I clarify this with you, that you wrote these response on May 13th? You're muted. You're muted. I think I saw what he said, but I don't think anybody else did.
I'm sorry. Yes,
No, it's okay.
There I am. I'm back. Yes, I submitted my response letter as well as revised plans to Joanne, I believe, on the 13th.
Okay, perfect.
All
Then
right.
it looks like we have this. This is our response, 65 to 67.
Perfect. Thanks for finding that.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any more questions about the Amory review? Okay.
I think the only thing that was in there was that we did determine that the tight tank was installed and that it should be brought up to grade.
All right. Well, it sounds like they are willing to do all those improvements.
Should we attach this as the conditions to anything that we may or may not agree to?
You know, we'll have to see the final plan, but I think they'll all be addressed, I think, on the plan already. So
It looks like they are.
Everybody got a copy of the plan?
And members of the board, Adam Braillard, if I could just ask Joe Webby, can you just confirm for the board that all of the concerns in the report have been addressed on these updated plans?
Yes, yes, I can attest to that. Yes.
Thank you.
So Joe, on your new plan that you submitted, the parking spaces are designated as the proper size?
Yes, they are. They're all 10 by 20s.
Okay.
Every single one of them?
Except for the handicap. Handicap are a little bit bigger.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. We, on sheet 3, we have a parking space detail that's right on the plan, so there should be no questions.
Yep.
Do you think you made all the parking spots bigger? How'd you add to them if you made them all bigger? You think it would make less spaces?
Well, we have one less than we had, I believe it's one less than we had when we had our original submittal. It might be two, but yeah, there's one less in that the north parking spaces up there. And I believe there's one less on the left-hand side.
Okay.
From what's existing right now.
Right.
Good job.
I was curious of something, Joe. You know, the catch basin in the drainage basin, what does that go to?
It's basically just, we believe it's just a leaching catch basin that existed prior to any development. We think it was done when Morgan owned this piece of property also.
Yeah. Was that just an overflow for the drainage basin, or?
Yeah, it was existing at the time. We had that scoped out and cambered, and it was just a basin.
Yeah, I was just curious. I see it there, and it doesn't show it going anywhere. You know?
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere except for it leaches very quickly.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
All right, just for clarification, this is actually directed more to the members. The most current copy that we have would be pages 45, 46, and 47? Or is it 44, 45, 46?
I'm sorry.
As far as in our packet, yeah, the copies that we have, is that pages 44, 45, and 46? Is that the newest one?
We have the large plans in our envelopes that we got today or yesterday at the town hall.
Okay. All right. So
Mark, I can try and PDF them and email them to you right now. You want me to do that?
yeah, that'd be cool.
I'll do it.
Mr. Chairman, the latest date or revision date is on our plans is 5/12/21.
Okay, thank you.
Oh. Okay.
Mark, I don't believe those are.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I don't think I have the most current.
I'm getting it for you right here.
All right, cool.
It's taking me a minute.
Mark, I have those all in a PDF right now, if you'd like me to email them to you.
Oh,
Yeah,
Watch anybody.
yeah, certainly, if you could.
Yeah, just give me an email. Whoops, I just hit something bad.
You
Oh, let me go find them again. Okay, who would like them?
I would, if you could, you can send it right to my name, Mark Milius at AOL.
Mark, Milias at AOL.com.
You got it.
Got the A in Mark though. Hold on. Okay, you should have them.
All right, thank you.
Oh, it came back. So what did I do? I did something wrong.
Maybe not a K.
Hey, Mark, in the chat, do you just want to put your email in the chat so that Gordon can just copy and paste it?
I'd love to. Hold on one sec.
Probably the most efficient way to work through this while everybody's patiently waiting. Although I don't know if Mr. Braillard gets paid by the hour, so I'm sure he appreciate us to take our sweet time. But
All right, let me go back to this thing.
Thanks for giving away my money.
I mean, yeah, so it doesn't seem like in our actual packets that the new site plan with the diagonal parking spaces, because on page 46 it still has the perpendicular ones or the parallel ones, not the diagonal ones. But on our actual sheets, it's different. It's the actual up-to-date one that we've already discussed and pretty much.
All right, that makes sense. Just because what I was looking at didn't reflect the changes.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. So the big 4-foot site plan sheets do have the up to date.
Yeah,
that match the on
reflects the images that we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I think Joanne has copies of it too. I sent her information also along with Mr. Webby did. So I think I sent it to her on maybe the 17th, maybe. No, I'd have to look, but I can follow up with her if you didn't get that package.
Yeah, it's probably just because I haven't made it into the town hall in a while, and with everything being on Zoom.
Go ahead.
It's a little difficult.
You should have it now, Mark.
All right, thank you. Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the other thing that we worked with Mr. Webby on, based on the feedback from the board and from the citizens, was we eliminated the corner parking spot that they felt would back up into the traffic on the right side. So that spot's been eliminated. The board had said maybe it could be employee parking. We felt like let's just eliminate it, get rid of that concern. So we eliminated that corner spot.
Okay. All right, excellent. Yeah, so now I do have the plan in front of me that does reflect all the changes and is what we were looking at earlier. as far as that front landscaped area, I don't see any note as far as what's planned in there. I assume that you're going to keep whatever is in there incredibly low. Obviously, would hate to see any sort of growth that comes out high or impedes any sort of site. I know the site distance is far, but I don't see any notes on what was proposed there.
Great point.
And any ideas on what was proposed there?
Yeah, so so in the front, we've talked to several different, landscaping firms from, greenscape firms and all local to the area, to do low maintenance there. So, in the front, we're thinking of, some combination of, colored stone and mulch with, some type of, ground vegetation. And then on the Circuit Street side, it would be, and we would bring in all fresh loam because, we've been, it doesn't look like it was loam to grade. So
Okay.
It would get reloamed. And then on the Circuit Street side, we were, and feedback from residents was to put some type of natural border there. I think Brendan has the names of the trees. It's, I probably.
It just, as long as we're in agreement, it's going to be some lower bushes, hopefully no trees, something to take into consideration.
On the Circuit Street side too, though, it might be, and Brendan might be able to speak more to it if he knows the names of them, but if you put some of those 10 to 15 foot arborvitaes around the backside of it, it's gonna, certainly shade the light and any kind of exposure that the neighboring residents are gonna have to the actual building.
Yeah.
Yep. So forgive me. I don't know the specific name of the trees. We have a list of the trees that were provided to us by the landscape architect. I can certainly, share those with you, but the intention is to create a natural border that's aesthetically pleasing, that's friendly to the neighborhood, and it improves the visuals of the facility as well.
I also don't see any mention of a sign. I don't believe that there is anything out there now. I don't see anything proposed, especially outside of the building. Are you planning on proposing one?
Chair, you're speaking to the signage for that actual flower show usage?
Yes. I just, no signs out by the road. You're not proposing anything?
We would propose one. We thought that would be, that the town had a separate process to apply for a sign. And that is why we didn't include it. It would be, there's no power there. So I can't imagine, I'm not a sign person, that it could be illuminated unless there's a way to do it by battery. But, we would be looking to put a sign on the front of the building, and then, I think, if it would fit and wouldn't be, detrimental to, based on with Corinne's advice, from a line of sight for traffic going out, we'd obviously would like to have one on the street just so people coming down would actually see it, and you wouldn't get, a last minute, oh, I went by it, or trying to stop. So we would look to have a sign there. We just thought from reading the town's process that it was a separate.
It is quite a process. It's part of the reason I was bringing it up. I'm actually glad that you're aware of it, because we've had issues as far as there's a lot of verbiage in our signage. So I'm not saying that you have to have it on this plan, but I'm glad that you at least are aware of it, and that we do have quite a lot to read up on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing that to our attention too. We've looked at it a little bit, and we're certainly going to conform to the requirements in the bylaw if our proposed sign requires any additional relief from this board or any other relief, we would certainly go before those boards to get that. But our intent right now is to conform to those requirements. So we would need a building permit, obviously, to go forward with that.
Yep, I think you're taking a good route.
Well, the only thing is if you're gonna propose it, then it needs to be put on the site plan, so it would have to be put on later. If you had an idea that you're gonna do it now, it would be a great time to do it, and it would be on that. And the same with the landscaping, if you've got the trees, I think it would be great to get that on the site plan so that everything is wrapped up.
Yeah, actually, especially if you already have that information that available.
Just for clarification, so the board would suggest that we put the landscaping and signage, proposed landscaping and signage on the site plan prior to making a decision, or would you prefer that we provide those as part of the plans that we would file with the building department for the building permit?
If I might, I mean, personally, I would like to see the landscaping plan on there so that, you know, if there's concerns with the neighbors about where the plantings are or whatever, that can be taken care of. It would be rather difficult to do anything if it ends up after we approve the site plan.
It certainly would help, and if you were planning on providing any sort of coverage, it would definitely help to know now. And if you already have the information for what's planned on that landscape area, it would certainly be better off to have it now than, you know, to have an issue later on when it doesn't go with what you're really looking for at the end. You know, we don't want to give you an approval and then your idea is actually different.
Yeah. 167.13 deals with signs. If you need a copy of it, I'm sure we can get that to you.
Oh, sure, yes, yeah, I thank you. I believe I have a copy.
Okay, good.
With respect to signs, I'm not sure, and Brian probably knows this than I do, but I don't know if we have our exact scheme or renderings of the signs yet. But I think we can certainly revise these plans. Brian, jump in here if you don't think so, but to revise these plans to show what we're proposing for a landscape scheme.
I think in regards to the landscaping piece, I think for any abutters that residents that may just have, you know, last ditch kind of concerns about, you know, being able to finally sign off on this, it's going to feel good for the residents to be at least be able to see in writing, in a plan, exactly what to expect moving forward. And I think that they have every right for that, but I think that that's also our responsibility. So
We'll add that to the plan.
Everybody's gone. I left the money underneath the brass bucket.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-oh. Nobody's going.
See you in a month or so, I guess.
About that, yeah, sometime in July.
Joe, you're
unmuted.
Thank you.
He's telling you where all the money is behind the wall.
Yeah, I think that if Brian supplies us with the landscaping plan that he has and just get it to us, we can make that part of our plans. Yes, that's the easiest.
Excellent.
And I would suggest if you have an idea of the location of the sign, even if you put the location on there, then it's located. We can take a look that it's far enough back, doesn't interfere with sight. And then you'd be looking at just a design and you'd be able to move ahead.
Certainly.
Other than those items, I don't really see an issue.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the plan shows all the changes. I have no more questions. Any other board members? Questions or comments? All right. As far as moving forward, I believe we still have time on next. I'm not sure how many days it is. This part always confuses me. We got, what do you have?
I think the time runs out on this on the 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think you need an extension to our next meeting.
Request. Yeah. Okay.
Or I would say the Monday after, at least, so we get a decision in.
So we'll need an extension till June 7th.
Okay. All right. At this time, the board recommends the changes for the detail in the landscape and the possible position of the sign. We're also requesting to extend the meeting until June 7th.
The meeting would be on June 3rd. And then we'll have the extension so that we can have signatures and all of that to June 7th.
And also the lighting plan.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So board would be looking for details on the landscape, the sign, and the lighting plan.
Would that be acceptable to the applicant?
And we are requesting of you an extension.
All those are acceptable. Brian, I just want to confirm with you if that's okay.
Yep. They're fine with it.
Thank you. We'll extend that until June 7th.
I'll see if I can find that document to send them.
Okay, and we will be putting you on the agenda for June 3rd. We'll go again at 7:40 if that works well for all parties.
And we'll be putting the special permit back on as well to finalize that.
And that's still within the time, right? Because we just opened tonight.
For the special permit, it is, yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Mark, I don't know if you can see the people, but Chris Winovich has his hand up.
Okay, Chris.
Hey, Mark.
We're not actually in the public hearing, but if you do have something, good, give you the floor.
Wasn't this a continuation of the last public hearing on the site plan?
We've actually closed the public hearing. We're now in the regular site plan review.
Okay, could I still make one comment?
Yeah, yes.
I know we covered all the other issues, but as far as the plantings, just as a butter, I would like to see something on the southeastern corner because I can see the whole building from there. And I think the other neighbor that would be on the southwestern corner of Circuit Street has a direct view of the building. So I didn't know if they could
Okay. Let me get that up.
What's the elevation difference from, Mark, what's the elevation distance from Chris's house down to the building?
Well, my audio cut out. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, I would say it's significantly uphill. I'm not sure. I wouldn't have
Those
a number
Lyland
to put on it.
cypresses, when they mature, can get pretty tall. I don't know if they can put them there, and it would eventually just at least block the parking area in the back of the building.
Chris, I'd have to ask
Okay.
Webby on where, what's allowed. Because your house, Chris, right, is behind Morgan Power, basically. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Which
Okay.
I can't see Morgan at all because they're below the hill. Your
Yep.
building, I can see in full view, lights, everything, parking.
Yeah. So we might, I'll talk with Joe, and, where you would want a tree might actually be Morgan's property. But
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, you're not actually direct abutter. But yeah, at least, but you understand his request, correct? So if that's
Well,
something that
work
you
with
could go
Chris.
over with Joe, and then we can take a look at whatever the plan that's proposed.
yeah, we're
Excellent.
here to work with the neighborhood and Chris, and, so, we want to be, we want to be a good neighbor with him. So I heard him loud and clear. Let us, have Joe Webby help me evaluate that. And then, we'll come back with hopefully something that, that's allowed.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I would say if you want to contact me, maybe you could walk onto my property just to see what it looks like, because you can't really see it from the street, what I see. I don't know if that's something you'd want to contact later.
Is there anything at your property line, Chris?
As of,
Trees?
no, because it drops downhill and you see it right to that place.
Because I'd be happy to meet you if you want to either email me at the, at the email there, or, that's on this presentation, and we can set up a time. I'd be, I'll be happy to come out next week and spend some time with you.
I think that would be the only way that you would see what I'm seeing, because when you drive in front of the street, because my house is set up high, you don't see that view. So just maybe you'll get a clearer view of what I'm seeing, but we can set that up outside this meeting.
Okay.
Excellent.
I sent the letter of mutual agreement to Brian Wall and CC Joanne Snow to let her know that we're extending from the 23rd of May to June 7th, and that he'll be on the agenda for June 3rd at 7:45.
Sweet, thank you.
You bet.
All right, any other questions or comments at this time? All right, okay, I think everybody's got some direction, and I think we will commence again on the 3rd.
Mr. Chairman, just one last question of clarification. The special permit will also be on the 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, this is Adam Brayler. Just a little more clarification on that.
Yeah.
The special permit hearing is closed, right? So that's for the decision.
Excuse me?
That will be for the decision.
Yes, I
Okay.
believe we will be making the decision.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We very much appreciate the board's time. I know this has been a long one, but there's a lot of information, so we understand and appreciate everyone taking the time to look at it.
Oh yeah, thank you, because it really helps. A lot of what we have to do is make sure that the site's appropriate for the use. So when the proposal is for a new use or a use that's newer to us, it helps to have the feedback for us to understand what the requirements of the site are, because we can understand the type of process and you know, so thank you.
Feels like there's no sound.
Crickets.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I was like, what?
All right.
And somebody take this, whatever's on the screen down.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, I guess we are moving on with business. We can go right down the line into discussion. We have 49 and 63 Carver Street, which is the fire chief's order to Gary Villard.
Let me find the page number that's on.
All the way down to 60, and I don't see it.
I don't see it either. So what are we supposed?
Mark, what are you looking for?
We're looking for the letter from the fire chief regarding Gary Villard, I believe Franklin Street.
Oh, it's page. Oh, so I was gonna say, I saw it started on 54. Gee.
I don't
No,
see it.
it was in the emails.
Yeah, I'll find it and share screen it, okay?
Oh, I see. All right. Yeah, I got it here on the email. I was okay. So it appears that the last correspondence was on the 19th. Chief has been working with the Vlads and their engineer. Final version has not been completed yet. Looks like not all of the products have been removed. It's going to allow to continue to work out the details while they're in the final stages.
Seems like what we should be doing is allowing the fire chief to take it on as he is, and he'll let us know, I'm sure, if he has any other issues. My thought process.
Yeah, sounds like they're making progress and working it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the opinion, no action required. Does everyone else kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, I agree. I would assume that if the fire chief is working with him, that if he has any concerns or willing to sign off on something, he's going to let us know.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. I guess he'll give us a update.
Maybe we should give him the heads up that we're looking for an update as soon as he has one, though, so that it's not just to over communicate.
That
Well,
makes
I believe they also are in the process of doing a site plan with us.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going over it together and then they'll be submitting one, which is good. Okay. Matter resolved for now. Moving on to the Franklin Street solar array. We are waiting for an as-built with corrections. It looks like I saw an email regarding that.
I sent that to you. Joanne showed it to me today, so I PDF'd it and I just sent it to us right as the meeting was starting. Not us. I sent it just to one of us because I didn't want to do that. Let me see what I can do here.
Oh, no, I got you. Yep, confirming the receipt of the as-built.
Hold on. Let me figure out how to do that now. Do you want me to just share screen it or do you want me to send it to you?
If you could share screen, because I think you did send it to me because I have a copy of the email from Ashlesh.
Okay. Sorry. Oh, it never went through. That's why nobody has it. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay, share screen coming right up. That's weird. One sec. Here it is. Can everybody see that?
Okay.
I'll go in on it. Can you see that all right, Rick? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, this is the one with there was an issue on the scale, correct? Not that there was an issue with what was on the plan.
And yeah, it was on that, and then it was on the assessor's map lot, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they had the wrong lot number on there. That's all that really needed to be straightened out.
And then the scale, right, Rick?
Yeah.
Because we couldn't compare it to what the site plan was.
100 scale on there now.
How's that? Is that better, everybody? I mean, like I can scroll around. I'm trying to.
It's actually.
I like that lot line. You know how when they first put this back together, like there was like a lot line. It doesn't. I don't see that on here. You know what I'm talking about? The one that would have been.
Oh, that extra lot. Yep.
Right here. That line.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we're past that. And
And so I guess the tree line is this right here, right? That was blocking from.
Yeah, that they ended up. I know that was another thing that was at least addressed, and it sounded like everyone was happy at the end.
Yes.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah. Absolutely. So do we have to make a motion on any of this? Does anybody have any questions or need to compare them side by side and anything like that?
I'd like to go in and take a look at it.
Okay. So we'll put this on our next agenda.
Yep. Not
Should we,
doesn't need a motion, but we will continue this until the next meeting.
okay. She just got it today, just an FYI.
All right, so then it's not even like we're. Yep. Give us some time. That sounds good. All right, moving on to next is pasture lane and the status of. I didn't see anything in the packet for that, but I may have missed it. Do we have any new information on that one?
I spoke to Mr. Paquette this week, and he is looking to come before the board and do a presentation and a hearing. So hopefully we'll have something in the next week.
All right, good. Okay, so that's moving along. And so we'll wait to, next up is the subdivision control regulations, chapter 235-6C for the approval not required time frame. That was the one where we had the question, right, on whether we had 20 days or so.
Yep. And I think it was, we had what, 14?
Yeah, I believe so.
And we were gonna make it the state, or talk about making it the state's timeframe, is that correct?
Yeah, I think what we felt like we should at least have the second meeting, even though we all agree that it should not be held up.
Well, we need to set a hearing for it.
Oh, right. So we would have to advertise for it, so we probably wouldn't make our June 3rd meeting. We'd have to go to the 17th. Should we advertise for a hearing on the, well, wait a minute. Let's talk about whether or not we really want to do this or not, right?
Yep.
Makes sense to, right?
Yeah, I think there's a couple other things in 235 we ought to take a look at too, and maybe we do them all at the same time.
Okay. What
Maybe
else?
if we put it on the agenda for the next meeting, we can discuss it. And,
Yeah, I'll try to
and
take a
then
look at it too.
What are the other things?
Amy, do you want to stop sharing your screen? We're not talking about this.
Thank you.
No,
Sorry.
I'm just letting you know it's still up there. No, all good.
I forgot.
All right, so if everybody can be prepared or get ready for the conversation next time, we will put that on the agenda for discussion for chapter 235.
What were the other things, so I can look them up, so I can be ready for the discussion? So we have the A&R time frame, but what are the other things that you're thinking that we should be looking at?
I'll have to go back and pull them out, but one of them is radius on subdivisions. Just clarifying the language in it.
Okay.
I don't have it right here. I can,
Email Joanne, she can send it to us.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, sounds good. Moving on to Cled's Tree Service, Industrial Drive. All right, so compliance update. Any word on if he has been able to get himself into compliance? I don't know if I saw anything in there for this one either.
I'm just gonna go look. I haven't seen anything either, but.
Down to mail.
I don't see anything, Mark.
Okay.
Anybody else?
No, I don't see one.
In our packets, we do have page 68 to, hold on. To 73 was about the Franklin Street solar field, just so that you guys can look at it. If we can go back to that just for a second, at least, to look at these emails, or is everybody okay?
Oh, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Let's see what they have on it. What was the page where it started? Sorry.
That's okay. 68 from Canoco.
68.
Canaco.
Okay.
I think it's this stuff basically for a Concon meeting. They had some weed growth under the panels, and they had a dead tree next to a battery storage container that poses a risk of damage to the containers in the event of falling. So I think that went to Concom. I think that's basically the emails we have here.
All right. Don't, I think until we hear word otherwise, I believe the last thing we left as Cled's is we gave him time to work with the fire department, similar to Gary Villard. So I don't think that we have any action to take at this time. So I think we can move on.
Okay.
Mark, this Chris Winowitz. I had just a quick question about Cled's.
Yeah.
To discuss it, do I just need to get that on an agenda of a future meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just call the secretary and.
Well, it all depends, really, because
You're
depending on what your question is, where you're not the
Mark, are you having a discussion on Cled's? Then I recuse myself.
Okay.
I don't want to keep you guys long.
Please make note of that. Yeah. Just wanted to clarify if it's a question as far as their existing site plan, but if it's as far as just know that we're not necessarily the enforcement officer in most things. So I'm not saying that you can't come in and discuss something with us. But if you did have a complaint or something like that, just as a matter of fact, like, you may be better off going to the zoning enforcement officer. If it's that type of issue, like I said, like if you wanted to, it might be best maybe not put it on the agenda. Maybe if you wanted to come in and we can give you some guidance or field the question, but not knowing what the question is.
It was just
if you had a complaint, I would definitely say, like, we're not necessarily the right people for that, unless it's like site plan.
It was just about a certain piece of equipment we discussed in the planning board that they had agreed to move it and didn't. So I didn't know if that's still the planning board to follow up with, or.
If it, as far as if you think it's like a violation of the site plan.
I don't know, because back when this started, there were questions on the site plan.
Okay.
Mark, do we control machines on the site plan?
No. All right. So like part of the, and like, say somebody was doing something that you didn't think they should have, like, we kind of are powerless to that. Like, so I was saying, like, he might be better off going in and talking to the zoning enforcement officer, because he can actually enforce things, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like that might be a better route for you, because unless it's like something that, like, if we already approved the plan, then they're held to it, but they're not held to it per se by us.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll follow up with him then.
Yeah, because like he's actually has enforcement power over it.
I just know it was discussed here previously. So,
Yeah, so like I said, like he's kind of the guy that holds them to the stuff that we agree to, if that makes sense.
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
But definitely, if like I don't want to discourage you from like talking with us, but like if you wanted to go there and then come back if you're not happy with what you got there.
Yeah, I mean, it
Okay.
hasn't been used ever since all these troubles they've been in, but I just afraid when it gets start being used again.
All right,
So
cool.
I'll start with him. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
That done with
right.
the club? I'm back.
Yep. Okay. Gordon returning. Meeting discussion for meeting time and location. Are we ready to discuss live meetings again and things like that?
I was thinking that we would do that. Get back together.
I'm kind of cool with it, especially because anytime I have a problem, like I don't like computers, so like I don't have any of the problems that I have with this thing when I'm sitting at a desk. But I guess with any sort of mandatory mask thing or indoor congregation, I think would be lifted prior to our next meeting.
Seems like that's what's happening, so.
Where we have the continuation of the stuff for the Plymouth Street for the Flower and Soul. I wonder if maybe we would be best to either continue that the way we are. I don't know if that is strange or if we have enough time to post our meeting at a different location. Maybe that is not an issue.
Well, we just post it 3 days ahead of time.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like as far as like if say those people are all like they got a decent sized group, like if they're all planning on it being a Zoom, if you know what I'm saying, they're not really planning on getting them all together and being at the meeting. I don't know if it's because it's such a big or important project, maybe we'd be best to hold steady what we're doing until that's done, but that I'm definitely open to discussion.
I can see that because they have like lawyers and everybody, so all these people are probably scheduling their nights dependent on Zoom.
Yeah, so like I almost feel as like, say we had discussed it first and we could have just given them a heads up. It just seems weird in a strange way because I kind of was like, oh hey, see you in 2 weeks, and then like switch the meeting in between that time seems kind of weird.
Can you Zoom from a live meeting? You do something like that?
You could. That's what the selectmen do.
Yeah.
Oh, like we show up, but we still. All right, so I think we might be hosed as far as like the laptop that we never got. I don't even know how we'd host one. You know what I mean?
That laptop again.
Yep, comes back to that. But I really not like. Maybe we could, but like I don't own one or anything to like host the meeting.
I see what you're saying, Mark. Exactly, I would agree with you.
Well, we've closed the hearing, so now it's just the meeting.
We have the site plan.
Yeah, like I said, I think if we weren't in the middle of this and/or didn't, I don't know, because I could see it being a surprise to those guys. Like if you know what I mean. I don't know. I don't know if that should be our concern or not, but
We can send them notice that that's what we're gonna do.
okay.
Sorry, I had some internet issues. I apologize. I missed half of that. So I will go with whatever you guys think is best.
Well, with internet issues, that's a strong voice for meeting in person.
I've got like 4 different experiences in this house, and I still get a lag and cut off somehow. So my apologies.
Like I said, I think that's part of the thing that could could rule that out. Yeah, like I said, I'm still not sure if it might be best that maybe we make the decision that we will be, but we say for whatever it would be, the 17th we'll start doing in-person meetings. That way, like I said, maybe we shouldn't be concerned, but I am, I guess.
Well, that's what our whole thing is being concerned about the people we serve, right? So I am too.
Does that sound reasonable to everyone else? We'll make the decision that
June 17th is
I
up.
will entertain a motion that starting June 17th, we will be holding our meetings at the town hall.
Sure, I will motion that gladly. I'll make a motion that our planning board meetings will start to be live in person at the town hall. Exact room to be determined on June 17th, 2021. Are we going to leave them at 7, or do we want to go back to 6:30, or are we good with the 7?
I would not recommend going any earlier, but I would gladly entertain going later.
Okay, 7 p.m. it is. So,
I think 7 would be good.
okay. All right. So is that a clear motion? Back in person, June 17th, 2021 at 7 o'clock.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, that is unanimous. All right, see you guys in 2 weeks.
I think we have other things.
I know.
I'm like, oh wait, is that your motion to adjourn?
And I'm out. All right.
Okay.
So for correspondence, we have a revised ENF for Aldana land swap. The sliver being a parcel B from Joan Pierce, Mass Department of Fishery and Games.
Should be new, correct? I don't think we take it out of the usual. Yeah.
Some background noise going on somewhere.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the Aldana land swap? Okay. Got, everyone wants to take a minute. We got notices, letters from other towns, notices and memos from the other boards. Take a second. Okay, if everyone's had a chance to look over those, on to other business. We have the reorganization of the planning board. I would make a recommendation and volunteer. I would make a recommendation to recommend Gordon Andrews for chairman. Myself, I would make a recommendation for vice chairman, and I would recommend Amy Troop for clerk.
I'll second that.
If you would like to make it a full motion, I would entertain it that way.
All right.
All right. There.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I I have a question on exactly what I'm gonna be as clerk, like what is the exact definition of clerk?
Well, as someone who's done it for years, it's pretty tough. I haven't figured out what exactly it entails yet, but it's difficult if you're up to the challenge. Realistically, take notes, which you all already do.
Hey, doesn't the new guy get to be clerk? That's what happened to me last year.
Yeah, you're just lucky. We just knew you could handle it.
Merrily did it.
Yep. Yeah, so I believe you, I guess you would be third in line. But I can't say that I know the particular duties required. But I was able to do it successfully.
That sounds really like you're putting yourself up that high on that list, Mark. Come on.
Yeah. No, I did really good at it.
Does anybody else have any comments?
I would recommend, I would make a motion to make Gordon chairman and Amy vice chairman.
All right. Well, since I'm currently entertaining the motion right now, that stands would be the recommendation of Gordon for chairman, Mark for vice chairman, and Amy for clerk. Do I have a second?
Second it, yeah. Thought we did that. So who, I'm
Okay.
confused. I'm confused. Who made the motion?
Mark.
No. Rick actually made the
I
motion.
actually made a motion.
I was not as
Gordon
I was
chair,
acting
Mark
chairman.
vice chair, and Amy clerk.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Do
I
I-
forgot that you did that.
So do I have a second on that motion? Okay, I feel as if I do not have a second, and that motion does not pass. Just to make it clear, maybe I made it less clear, but maybe we should go for each particular spot. I was trying to simplify. So if we had anyone that would like to make a motion to promote someone to chair, I would be open to those motions.
I'll make a motion for Gordon to be chair.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I will second. Okay, Amy is the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Yes.
All those opposed? Passes unanimous. Excellent. I would now entertain a motion for vice chairman.
I'll make a motion for Mark Milius, vice chairman.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second? I will second that. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I definitely heard Brendan and Amy. Gordon, I'm not sure if I got a vote on you.
Negative. Negative.
Okay, so that motion
Negative.
does not pass.
Right.
I make a motion to make Amy vice chairman.
There's
Second.
a motion. There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. I will
I'll make a
open
motion.
for a motion for clerk.
I'll make a motion to make Mark clerk.
Mark will decline.
Okay.
The
I'll make
motion.
the motion to make Brendan clerk.
Okay, I have a motion to make Brendan clerk. Brendan Elliott for
Second.
clerk. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That passes unanimously. All right. Moving on, we have the sexual harassment policy for 2021 requiring signatures. I don't know if we have a deadline on that, but maybe we can just hold off until the 17th when we're all present and can sign then.
I signed it today when I was in the office.
All right.
But we can.
I will plan on signing it then if there's I don't know, if there's a deadline or something, I'll come in before that. But other than that, I will sign it when I go in.
The ZBA was, comprehensive permit was postponed.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that it's going to be postponed, from what I've heard, until later on this summer after they get John's affairs together.
Who is? Who
John.
are we talking about?
John Pex.
Okay.
He passed away.
Did you know that, Mark?
No, I did not.
Yeah, it's sad.
I also didn't know that he was. I didn't realize he was doing that. Okay.
It's just his land.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what the connection was though.
Oh, sorry.
And I think
Okay.
you got one more thing is 649 Montponsa Street. Last thing in the packet.
That is the last thing I see on the list.
Twin Lakes Liquors. I'm going to recuse myself from that.
Okay. I really don't. I don't know what we're discussing.
Page 87, it's correspondence, I think, Mark.
Oh, okay.
It says Inspector of Buildings and Zoning Agent Nuisance Inspection Form. The date it happened was May 19th, 2021 at 10:05 a.m. There was a complaint by phone. New lights on whole back of the building at Twin Lakes Liquors, 657 Montponsa Street, shining into house windows all night.
Okay. It looks like there hasn't been enough time for
It to be on that.
yeah, anyone to, well, I was gonna say for anyone to have addressed the issue.
Well, it doesn't have an investigation date yet either, or any investigation, because they probably just got it, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't seem like there would have been enough time for anyone to act on it. I don't know that it requires anything from us. I do know that they came in a while ago when they were trying to rehab half the building there. I don't remember anything as far as new lighting or anything that was proposed. So maybe we just give this some time, see where it lands. It may have been something as simple as somebody left on a light they didn't intend to.
It could be.
If you know what I'm saying.
It could be. But remember, was it last summer? We had this in front of us about certain things about a site plan. Do you remember that?
About that site plan?
Yeah.
Like in particular?
Yeah. There was I forget the actual date. I'd have to look it up, but it was in front of us when they were starting the renovation. Oh, when they were gonna tear down most of the building where Elena's used to be. and we let that part of the site plan go for that moment.
Oh,
A lot of stuff
okay.
going on over there. There's a lot of stuff going on over there now. We probably should request a site plan.
Yeah, you're right though, because at the time they were just looking to improve the conditions that were existing, which is why, yeah, you're right. I think we did. We may have waived a formal review
of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think as long as their scope hasn't changed, I don't know that like we'll require one, but definitely like if this issue isn't resolved, then we should definitely call them in. But maybe I'm not even sure who investigates this. All right, so that's the zoning agent.
Yep.
Yeah. So
maybe we can ask for an update for our next meeting.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe if Joanne, if you could reach out to the zoning agent later in the week, or just let them know that we'd be interested to know how that came up, and if there is
Amy,
an issue, we can call them in.
Huh?
Amy, was this the meeting where they were discussing what the second part of the building was going to be zoned for because of that green earth dispensary was potentially going to go in next door, and they were like, no, right now we're just trying to fix the building up. Is that the same meeting that we're talking about?
We didn't hear about that at the planning board, but that might have been at a selectmen's meeting. And I don't remember talking. Hold on, I don't remember talking about any. What did you call that company again? I don't remember talking about that.
It was like it was either green. It was green earth or green something, because they're basically saying that they were going to fix up the other one, and basically going through the tulips as far as what the other side of the building could potentially be subletted out for.
I think that must have been a selectmen's meeting.
Yeah, I don't believe that was before us.
But good point, because it's good for us to know that they are starting to talk about what could go on the other side. That's good.
Yeah, it was along the same lines of the same meeting where they were talking about putting the multifamilies in on Summit Street, and it happened to be on the same agenda. And they were talking about rehabbing the Twin Lakes Liquor building. And then people were saying, oh no, that side is going to be for storage. But then some people started asking, yeah, but you could potentially be subletting that out to somebody else. And then there was rumors, and again, it's just a rumor mill, so it is what it is, but it was brought up on that meeting that it could, Green Earth or green something dispensary had interest in that space. So, and then to tonight's meeting where they're saying that there's going to be another dispensary putting in their petition to Halifax that's within 3.5 square miles of where the dispensary was discussed this evening. That's the only other one I could think of. So I don't know if that's the same building or the same meeting we were talking about, but just happened to be on that call that night. So
Okay, yeah, no, that's good information.
Something to think about for the future.
It is. I thought it was only going to be used for storage for the liquor store.
Okay.
Again, rumor mill, but times where there's smoke, there's fire. So just keep it in mind.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. I would entertain one more motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. And we will be in Zoom for the next meeting.
Thanks, Mark.
Hey.
Good night, everybody.
Great.
Night.
Good work, everybody.
Mark.